Hey guys, Blue here. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. I've decided to start this tutorial slash art tips series, so art tutorial and art tips series to help out some fellow learning artists. The idea is that I will be posting videos and tutorials on drawing in general, along with tips on character design. There will be resources sourced down in each of the videos where I got some of the tips or what I've learned from. And honestly, before we actually dive into the series, this is an intro video, so I just wanted everyone to know that everyone draws differently and learn differently at different rates and so on. So please be aware that sometimes the tips I give or the tips I may have sourced may not be the best, so just take them with a grain of salt sometimes, because it might not be the best or the most helpful for you personally, but I'm pretty sure you can take something away from it. So as I mentioned before, this series is for fellow learning artists because I am also a learning artist. I am mainly self-taught, and I started to really try and get into art and actually spend more time into my interest of doing art was around grade 6. I am still learning, and there are many things that I still have a long way to go. So there is that aspect of the series where it's more of sort of an art journey where we all learn together, and it may not be the most well-versed sometimes in the way of the tips for character design or possibly just drawing in general, as everyone draws differently. So the purpose of the series is mostly to both teach and to learn, to share some thoughts also and some tips on the idea of the series and some personal experiences before we dive in that may be helpful before the first video comes out. Is one thing is the art tips, because everyone, as I mentioned before, learn differently, draw differently, and have different opinions on how they would like to draw art. So sometimes these art tips may not be the best. And one great example is from personally what I've seen online is those videos teaching you and giving you tips on how to better your art, along with the videos that are coupled with it, in the sense of videos along the titles of the art tips I don't like and here's why videos, because these things, they kind of show you how sometimes people learn differently, and how it's like sometimes the tips aren't clear enough, or sometimes the tips are there, it's just really depending on your style of drawing. And from these some personal experience from trying these tips was a lot of things. And 3 of the main tips that really stood out to me when I was learning from these videos or looking at reading tutorials of art online as I learned by myself was 3 points. The first one was practice. Most videos would tell you, or most online drawing sources would tell you practice. Maybe your art teacher also tells you practice, it always helps. But there is this sort of difference on exactly how you practice. There usually, from what I know of, that I have personally done, was 2 types of practice. One thing was drawing the same thing over and over and over. This was the first thing I did, and I kept drawing the same thing, and it just didn't help because I was drawing the same thing that I wanted to improve, and it just got stuck there. I was just walking in a circle, drawing that same thing over and over. And honestly, if you learn something new and you're practicing that thing over and over, that's great, because it will help you solidify that skill as to how to draw that certain thing. But if you're trying, let's say, drawing eyes, you learn how to draw eyes for the first time. You can keep practicing the same thing over and over to get the hang of it. But if you're someone who wants to improve the way you draw eyes, drawing the same thing over and over again does not help. And in this case, you should practice with changes, tweaks, or maybe some sort of help, as in maybe look at other people's drawings of how they draw eyes, take out the sort of thing that you like about it, and throwing that into the way you practice drawing eyes. This is how these 2 types of practices can help. One is to solidify a skill you just learned that you're trying to do by doing it over and over again. The other is trying to change or maybe alter the sort of aspect of your skill that you don't really like to a better change, which is practicing with a bit of change to it rather than drawing the same thing over and over. Both of these types of drawing and drawing practice is good. It just really, you gotta use it depending on how you want to adjust your art or to change or to practice and improve your art. And as the second part, where I noted that we're practicing with change to what you're drawing, a great way to help you is using references. Now, references are good, but it really depends on how you use it. For example, beginner artists sometimes have trouble drawing due to inexperience or lack of knowledge on what they're trying to draw. A reference is good for helping and learning. And sometimes very good artists also use references to help sometimes a character design or anything else they're having trouble with. Sometimes it could be posing, sometimes it could be that they have the specific idea but they need some help to make it more accurate. Now, references aren't bad. It's just as long as they're for practice or for inspiration and not copied completely. By what I mean is, for example, when I was a beginner, I would heavily reference things from books or online images of things I want to draw. It is a good way to start, as long as you are learning new skills and taking what you're learning to form what you would like to draw, rather than just copy, color, and claim it as your own. And now that moves on to our next point, is to try different things. It can sound scary. I know, it can be intimidating because the thing you're trying to draw may be outside of your comfort zone. It's totally fine to not succeed or not having to actually like what you're trying. To try new things is mostly to expand your skills or your art mediums or to help develop things you may be lacking in. An example personally for myself was that at one point my art had barely changed after a year and I was getting frustrated. I refused to try other art styles other than what I was comfortable with at the time, especially sketching, since I just didn't want to draw so meticulously unrealistic things. However, I finally decided to try sketching after much nagging. I wasn't very happy, but in the end, it has helped me with shading and try to make my art look more proportionate. Though it was only a small period of time and my art style is still more on the cartoon or anime side, when I do attempt something more on the realistic side, it's there. And it's also great sometimes to expand your sort of art mediums so you can kind of just try different things and maybe make something you like. And honestly, that's all for today. This video is mostly just an intro and to sort of share some of the art tips that I found very helpful when it comes to art in general rather than a specific thing. And hopefully this series does have a bi-weekly update if I don't procrastinate. And I really hope that the tips I just said will help you, and so will the videos to come. So yeah, this is Blue, signing out. See you hopefully in 2 weeks. Haha.